I've actually had to remove a door,
Yeah.
pre-hung, like the whole frame,
Yep.
to get it out of the rough opening. And I'm going to tell you,
It's not a great feeling.
I tell you what I told the customer. I am not a carpenter. So this is going to end up however it ends up. You know what I mean?
Probably is recording.
Probably is recording. It says so. Hey, guys. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Make Trades Great Again podcast. I'm Eric Gawney. He's Andy Mickelson. Andy, how you doing, man?
I am doing pretty darn fine.
Feels good to be in the studio this morning, recording.
Absolutely.
Drinking some coffee, which, by the way, is from some new friends of ours.
Yeah. Yeah. The guys at Carpenter Coffee Roasters reached out through the IG DMs and sent us some love.
Yeah. So we're talking coffee oftentimes. Chad loves it when we talk about our Nespressos.
Yeah.
This isn't that. This is they sent out a couple bags of beans. Even got a coffee mug, and they put my name on it. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Thank you. These guys are out of where are they out of? It looks like they're out of
California.
California. Yep.
Yep.
Former police officer. One of them, founded by a former police officer, built on service, discipline, and a deep respect for everyday grinders, is what they said.
That's right.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I ran a couple of cups off this weekend out camping and ran a couple through the AeroPress. They were pretty tasty. So, yeah. I
did the drip brew because I'm not bougie. I'm not bougie. Look, that's all I got. I got a nice little espresso stovetop, like the little, what do they call it? It starts with an M, you know what I mean? The little Italian thing. And then I got a drip brew, like a Mr. Coffee, whatever the hell it is. I don't know what the hell. And it's good. I got the Boogeyman. That's the flavor I'm drinking, and I like it.
Yep. Well, I am running fancy pants this morning.
Of course you are.
Of course he is,
everyone. Yeah. Just wearing fancy pants.
Fancy pants. Doing it out of the Chemex right over my shoulder there. Kind of a little science experiment in the background, but
I like it.
That's what we're doing.
Well, cool. We can't do this show without our coffee, so check it out. CarpenterCoffeeRoasters.com. You want to check them out. Anyway, okay.
Before you bounce off, if you're looking to take in an order, why don't you hit them up with the Trades 10? You get 10% discount on the house.
What?
So
Andy's giving out discounts, baby.
Discounts.
Trades 10. The number 10?
Yep.
The word
10.
Trades and then the number 10.
Trades 10.
Get you 10% off the Carpenter Coffee.
Yep.
Roasters.com. Okay. There you go. Thanks for the coffee, guys.
Yep.
Moving on. Andy, what is this? I hear you guys are pulling off jobs.
Yeah.
You're canceling it literally in the front yard of the customer's house. You're like, no, we ain't going to do it. Tell everybody the story, because this isn't an uncommon thing to happen in the plumbing and heating service world. It just really isn't.
No. So scenario is customer calls. They've got a 50-gallon electric water heater. They would like to change that 50-gallon electric out to a heat pump. Our local community right now, like Missoula County, and in cooperation with the utility provider, if you have an electric tank currently and you want to swap your electric tank for an air source heat pump, and all of the stars are aligned, which isn't very hard to do, you can get $4,400 in credits back.
What?
Yeah.
Residential.
$4,400? Yeah. $3,000 from the utility. Right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
This
and it's
must
a check.
Be up to.
No. You put in a heat pump water heater and it checks all the boxes, like it's on their approved list, like, Renai or Bradford, Ream. They're all on the approved list.
How are you? Okay, sorry. I'm interrupting.
Right. So you could get $3,000 from the utility. And like I say, the requirements are that you have an electric currently. It's your primary house. There's a couple little, basic things. Right. And then the county currently, they just upped theirs from $500 to $1,445 or something like that.
Oh, so Hopefully they didn't carry the zero.
Yeah, it kind of, yeah. So it's nuts. So we've had a lot of interest. People. Hey, well, what are we gonna do? What can we do here? If you got a gas water heater, I'm having that conversation. Hey, I mean this is a thing. You can certainly do this.
Yeah, but you
we
don't
can
get
help.
the rebate if you have a gas water heater.
You don't get the utility rebate from the utility company, but you can get the federal credit that's out there. I don't remember what the federal credit is right off the top of my head. It's a little bit weird the way it's calculated, if I remember right.
Okay.
And then you could get the county rebate, or the county, it's a check. And theirs is minimal. They want to see an inspection. They want to see, I think they want to know your utility company. They're kind of doing some data collection off of it. I'm not exactly sure, and I haven't gotten a completely solid answer on why it is the county is getting involved in energy credits and rebates. It seems like it's just not their commonplace.
I could see. So there's rebate money. I mean, it happens here in Minnesota too. There must be some federal grants that they applied for a while ago, right, and it applies to this. Yeah.
Yep.
The limit on a tax credit for home improvement, I believe, is $3,200 total right now, and I think the water heater is just a slice of that.
Right.
It's like you said, it's a little convoluted and it's hard to find out on the fly while we're doing this recording. But either way, there's some federal money too. And it's really comes down to like if you have a tax burden, right? So like,
right.
Okay.
So anyway,
if you live in the US, you have a tax burden, put it that way.
So we go up, I go see these people.
Yep.
Young family, lots of bathing, lots of laundry, whatnot. And I'm looking at the space and I'm like, we got like 80 inches in height. I'm like, let's put in a 65. Anyway, so we order a Rinnai REHP 65. Super excited, especially after all the stuff we did with Rinnai at AHR this year.
It's a great tank, by the way.
You've talked it up. So I was like, sweet, this is a perfect opportunity to put this Rinnai in.
Okay.
And I say, I sell the job. They're excited, especially because they're like, oh, we're going to get,
basically going to get this thing for free.
Right. Right. And, so go up there. Yesterday was install day. And so Tristan's going to go do the install. And I'm going to come up and help him get the tank in the basement, get the old one out, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean these heat pumps are not really one-man jobs.
Yeah, they're big. They're big. Yeah, I mean, I think the tank is 250 pounds. So it's not like out of this question for doing it one man. But I'd sure feel a lot better taking it through a finished basement that you had an extra set of hands on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Anyways, I think they're a 2-person job personally, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and physical size. I mean, they're big.
Yep.
So we have Keller's going to deliver the tank for us.
Okay.
And which works out really good because we don't have to move it like 4 different times. So they're just going to bring it up. It's on a lift gate, but drop it at the door, and we're going to take it in with the power main.
Gotcha.
Anyway. So I'm on my way there, and Tristan's looking at spec sheet on it while he's draining the other water heater and kind of getting some things disconnected, waiting for the delivery to show up. And he calls and he's like, "Dude, where were we going to put this?" And I'm like, "Well, in the same place as the current one, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, that's not going to work, because we only have 24.5 inches and the new tank's 25.6 according to the spec sheet." And I'm like, that's got to be shipping weight, width. I'm sure that I looked at it,
Yeah.
And he's like, no, shipping width is 29, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So where this thing was going to go is between a wall and the furnace.
Yeah, you're only moving one of those things, by the way.
Right. Yeah, both of those things are staying put for all kinds of economic reasons.
Ain't no tax credits in moving furnaces or walls.
No. And so I'm like, all right, well, if it's, if it was slid out like in that space, how bad would it overhang or impede the furnace? And he's like, it's totally going to. He goes, it's going to be hard to get the door off. And I'm like, no, we're out. Pump the brakes. We got to rethink things. I'm not the very last thing that I ever want to do as a contractor is make an awkward or make a situation worse than it is. And their tank was not leaking, was not, like critical. Hey, we got to replace this right now. This was just something that was scheduled, largely based on they needed more hot water, and they wanted to take advantage of the techs incentives.
I know people that would 100% shoehorn that thing in and make this not emergency, not critical install a go and just do it. I know people that would do that. And I mean, we've even been there ourselves where you're like, oh crap,
Now what? Yeah.
Now what? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wasn't even on site yet. And I'm just like, well, I mean, I don't know what, what's the right thing to do? Yeah, that's what I told Tristan. I said, he goes, oh, the delivery driver just texted me. He's out in the driveway. I'm like, go out, tell him to keep it on the truck, take it back to the branch. And he's like, really? I'm like, yep. Just tell, I think it was Tyler was the guy delivering it. And I just said, just tell him, take the thing back to branch. I'll call the branch manager and we'll sort things out.
Yeah. Well, he does that all the time. It's not that big a deal. I'm sure it probably wasn't even the first time this week. It certainly wasn't the first time this month. Put it that way.
Well, and so, I just said, do that. I said, what's the status of the current water heater? He goes, well, I got the flexes disconnected and it's draining. I'm like, close the drain, put the flexes back on, hook power up, fill it up, let's go. And then, and I said, and you don't have to, I'll call the homeowner. And so I called and talked to the homeowner. She was totally cool. And on the same note, like, I really appreciate you, having the forethought to just say, hey, we're going to pump the brakes. This isn't critical. Nobody took time off. I think she may even work from home. Or, well, like I said, she's got a couple of little kids. I maybe stay home. I'm not sure.
The big thing is you would have, if this were my job and I decided to go forward with it, I can tell you the next words out of my mouth would be telling you of a story of how a bad situation got worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you were there taking the new water heater out because they didn't like the look of it.
Right. Or they didn't like how it was so jammed in there. Like, I've been down that road. I've put myself into that situation. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, avoiding it is way, way more of a situation, I can deal with that situation way better than I can, look, I don't care. It's not about the money at this point. It's about the customer relationship and really your reputation. You're not going to do this job at this moment in time. And look, it's water here. It's not like you're not going to find a solution. You know what I mean?
Right.
You probably already did.
Well, and that's kind of where we're at, so we ran that back. I think, and I've got to verify the dimensions and really wrap my head around how we're going to duct this thing in. And I think we're going to end up doing a ream, because we can get a ream 65 is like 23.5 inches. So that gets us an inch of clearance. And I just got to verify height and then make sure that I can get the duct connection out of that same space over to the return air. So that's what we've done on the last couple of them, where we've got a forced air furnace system in there. Is we've been taking the discharge air off of the heat pump water heater and dumping it into the return air on the home heating system. And the beauty of that is that we disperse that cool air in the airstream or just into the ductwork to be, gently dispersed around the house.
Yeah.
That return air has little to no flow resistance. And then as soon as the fan is on, it's going to be even better. So,
yeah, I've done it that way. once now only. I mean, there's a couple of reasons why that makes sense to me. I'm sure there's reasons why we probably shouldn't do it too. Like you know what I mean? There's probably a solid reason why that's a bad idea too. I think with these heat pumps in general, we need to really consider, and we're not talking about it yet because these manufacturers don't want us to, but I mean, there's a lot of energy and effort goes into building these new structures and making them airtight and so that we can control the indoor air quality. And it's all for the good.
Yeah.
Regardless of what people used to think, oh, you got to have a house that breathes and stuff. And like, well, you got to build a house that doesn't breathe on its own. You got to give it lungs, right?
Right.
But these water heaters are changing how our houses feel. They're changing the dew point big time, or the relative humidity. And it's changing a lot of the immediate area around them, stuff like that. So you got to we have to really figure this out. And I think in the future, we're going to be ducting these things to the outside pretty regularly. That's just my take on it. It's just a prediction. You heard it here first, folks. Your solution with hooking it up to the ductwork, that's something I was thinking about last year when we started doing these, and I was trying to figure out how to trigger the furnace to kick on when when the water heater was running. I tried like a C clamp, current clamp, stuff like that. I'm like, how can I get this thing to turn on just when I need it to? And then I just thought, you know what, I'm way overthinking this thing.
Yeah.
You either let it run or not. And so like the one I did, the customers always running their fan on their blower on their furnace.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's perfect. It's 100%. I just, it's already circulating. So like, that's ideal actually. And then any change that this water heater contributes to the comfort, the furnace is just going to take care of. Right.
Yep.
And so, it doesn't fit. If the water heater doesn't fit, you must have quit. What is the dimensional change on these things, or the dimensional change on water heaters overall, I thought was going to be a lot bigger deal. They made it really feel like it was going to be like this insurmountable obstacle we were going to be up against. I'm talking like 10 years ago. Remember when, I think it was the Nika change or something like that in 2015. All of a sudden water heaters are going to be like an inch or two wider.
Oh my God.
And everybody's
2 inches taller.
Out. Yeah. Everybody's freaking out. And that, if anybody doesn't know, if maybe you don't remember, maybe you're a little bit younger, the difference is they started insulating these things a little bit better. And they did change how things are built for sure.
Yeah.
But ultimately what made them bigger was they had to have more insulation around them for the first time in decades, which only made sense. Remember water heaters used to have fiberglass insulation just wrapped on the jacket?
Yep.
Just the cheapest crap. Oh,
like 3/4 inch, just a little lightweight bat.
Yeah. There is no way that had any R value. What is the R value of 1? What is the R value of the steel jacket? 1? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't know.
It's kind of like that fiberglass pipe wrap, that's like the 2-inch wide strip.
Yeah.
That you wrap, and people wrap around their pipes. Oh, I'm going to insulate my pipes. And you're like, what? Why did you waste your time? You literally laid in the mud in your crawl space to insulate your pipes with like toilet paper.
I'd rather they did that than that. What's that like? It's almost like that intumescent stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Like, looks gritty. It's like this tape.
It didn't start gritty.
Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about.
But right? And then it dries up and you can't get it off of nothing. It's usually got a foil back on it.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst. Anyway.
Yep.
So you're in limbo on the job though. I mean, we're just the next day when we're recording this. This was yesterday?
This was yesterday. And so we're probably 10 days to get that tank.
Oh, so you're gonna have to order it in. Did you have to order this one in?
Yeah. Yeah. So
why is that, do you think? Why do you think you're having to order these in?
Well, I mean, after my conversation with Keller yesterday, and they're a Rinnai dealer as well, he says, well, I mean, is this Rinnai something you would want to install? I said, yeah, it's a nice tank. I said, everything that Rinnai does is nice.
Yeah.
And the price point on it was really nice. And that's something that, goes back to conversations that we had here a few weeks ago. It's like, well, what do you do? This is straight up my fault and my problem that the water heater I proposed doesn't fit. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's easy. We've talked many times too in the past. It's easy to go, send me a picture. I want to see what it is. Did you go out and see it?
Yeah, I went out and measured and everything. And I, I flat missed the dimension on the width.
This is your fault.
It's my fault. Yeah.
You kind of suck. No,
I kind of suck at my life. Yeah.
That does suck. That does. I mean, it sucks either way. But now knowing that you went out and measured makes me, I realize, yeah. That's a bummer. That's a real bummer. You know what? It happens though. Like, how many times have you over the years, like, installed that next size up boiler or something where you're like, not realizing that your vent size went from 3 to 4 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Just something stupid.
Yeah. And you get there and you're like, oh, huh.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't prepared for that. And you got to turn on, on the fly. You're trying to order crap and whatnot, but it's a little different than if something doesn't fit.
Yep.
You ever had a water heater not fit through the door of the mechanical space?
Yeah, a couple times.
So it's happened to me, and each time it was the same water heater. The Marathon 105, which are popular in our area.
They're like 28 inches, aren't they? It's like a
massive,
fat, bulbous.
Yes. Well, and they've got those kind of bands on the. It has that band on the bottom that kind of holds the bottom of the jacket to the top to the rest of the jacket.
It's that 1/4 inch,
and it's it was probably put in this unfinished basement on construction, and then the basement was finished kind of deal. And of course they put too small of a door or something. I've actually had to remove a door, pre-hung, like the whole frame, to get it out of the rough opening. And I'm going to tell you,
it's not a great feeling.
Well, I tell you what I told the customer. I am not a carpenter, so this is going to end up however it ends up. You know what I mean? It's a plumber going in there with a hacksaw. Finish carpentry.
7-bar and a sledgehammer.
What are you going to do?
That fine woodworking popped right off.
Well, in the case of these water heaters not fitting, I can tell you, I don't know, I don't remember the details, but it's happened more than one time, at least twice. And I can tell you that in both cases, that had to be done because it was like it was a warranty, like, because they had the lifetime, remember? So, like, the tanks were leaking. They had to be replaced.
Yeah.
But either way, it's happened. It's kind of the same. It feels like the same kind of scenario in a sense where you're like,
it kind of is. Yeah.
You're there, you're doing the job, and then it's like, this is a problem that we just uncovered that I could have
kind of
probably seen coming, but I didn't.
Yeah. You walk out and you get the homeowner out of their easy chair, and you're like, "Hey, you don't mind if the water heater sits in the hallway, do you?"
Yeah, you don't. Hey, you know what? I know. Look,
would that be inconvenient if you had to walk around that every morning carrying the towels?
Let's talk about a remodel. What do you think if we move your washer and dryer over here? You're like, I got this whole plan.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Customers looking at you like, this guy definitely smokes crack.
You weren't even supposed to be working on the water heater today.
Oh my God. No, the other water heater situation I've found myself in, I haven't found one that I haven't been able to fit, but I have gotten some tight ones. There's no doubt. I've had to like scoot water softener type bit. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's common.
Usually that's doable, even without some, like, maybe you got to cut some pipes, but sometimes you could just be like, I need a 1/2 inch. Whatever. I don't feel too bad about that. The one thing I can say that has happened to me, maybe once, maybe twice, probably twice or more. It's been a long time, so I'm going to knock on some wood. There's plenty of it around here. Okay, I knocked on 3 pieces of wood. You get the tank out there and it's the wrong gas.
Yeah.
You need an LP and you look on the tag and it says natural.
Yeah, that's a thing.
And you've already unboxed it.
Yeah.
It's, been brought into the basement. And
that was where I was at with Tristan. I was like, okay, do not take that off the truck. Do not take it out of the box. Just so we are clear.
Yeah. Don't double check the measurements by unwrapping this thing.
Right.
Because then we own it.
Yeah.
Then we have an unprotected tank too, by the way.
So.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. So customer was okay with it.
Yeah.
Move on.
They were fine.
You're like, you know what? I got to go home and get some carpenter coffee.
That's right. I'm going to go get some coffee and think about it and contemplate life's decisions.
How did Tristan, was he bummed? He's like, oh, man.
Yeah, he was kind of like, because he was amped up, ready to go get something done today. You know?
Yeah.
Like, let's go. I'm ready. And he was geared up. Usually, I mean, I don't have to push too hard to get Tristan ready to roll. And
he rolls out of bed and that turnkey's been wound a couple times, isn't he?
Yep.
He's a great dude. I like him. That's cool. Well, I'm glad. I'd love to hear back on this one. You're going to give us an update on how it goes. I'm a little bummed on a personal note, just because I have, like you said, I have installed that tank a couple times now. And I think it's great. Customers have liked it. So I was interested to see what you guys thought when it was up and running and stuff like that, because it is different enough. These things are like, there's some technology built into a water heater kind of for outside of tankless, kind of for the first time. You know what I mean? Like these things are pretty smart. They're pretty cool.
Yep.
So,
and I mean, the good news is yesterday afternoon, I got an email from another former customer saying, hey, we'd like to replace our water heater. We heard there's a big rebate from the county.
There you go.
And I'm like, okay, I'm guessing, that 65 or 9 will probably fit in their basement because they got a lot more room.
So is Keller going to start bringing this in for a stock item, or what?
Well, they stock it in other branches. Washington area's got a bunch of them. And that's the same thing with the Ream tank. So my Keller branch is traditionally a Bradford White dealer.
Yep.
And so this branch here does Bradford and then Ream Rudd commercial. And, so he goes, we're not really looking to bring in a whole nother line of water heaters, like,
you can
of
do
tanks.
Branch transfers.
So he goes, we got them in Washington. It's, a couple of days, 10 days out or something like that on a transfer truck. So, something like that, a 65-gallon tank, you're probably not throwing on UPS. No. It'll go, I guess you could LTL it or something like that.
Yeah.
Get a freight truck and get it over here. But, they're the nice thing about doing the inner branch stuff is that everybody that lays hands on it on the inner branch side of things is pretty genuinely on the same page that my job is to protect this device and make sure it arrives intact because they have to sell it.
Right.
So
that makes sense. It's a long transfer though. Like that's a decent, well, I suppose
it's got to make two stops. So it's coming from, I think it's coming from Ellensburg, Washington. So out by Seattle.
Yeah.
And then it'll go to Spokane. It's a poke.
It's a poke.
I
was trying to put that in there. Could you see me?
Yeah. I
Could you see my wheels turning?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. That's it for today's podcast. Of course, you can give us feedback in the apps that you're listening to us on. You can send us a text message. We won't get your phone number or anything like that. So, I mean, be bold, be brave. Just kidding. Be nice. Say something constructive. Give us real feedback. We do honestly appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. And if you're listening this far, subscribe to this on YouTube if you can. Subscribe to us in your podcast app. It helps other people find us. Give us a rating. All those things that you've heard on podcasts 1,000 times. We say it because it means a lot to us, and we do appreciate you, and we appreciate any effort you give towards us to let other people know.
Yeah.
And shout out to, Trevor and Pat and, the guys over on Instagram. They're sharing screenshots of they're listening to the podcast. They're putting it on their stories and tagging us.
Yep.
We love it. We love that. And it's so cool to see people out there just by random, just be like, hey, listen to this week. And it got me thinking about that. It's cool to see Trevor. He's been doing it on his stories a few times and he's putting out questions and people are really interacting with him and getting going on the conversation. And that's neat to see.
Yep.
So I appreciate that a ton. All right, dude. Thanks for the story. I'd like to get a feedback. I see I'm in the mode. I'd like to get an update on that coming up. So I'm going to hit end, dude.
Okay. Later.
Bye.